how do I walk this one back? See, I was inspired to have a martini, by the way. But speaking of martinis, there's another problem I have with this analysis, which is that it's very reductive to identity politics in a way that I think really cheapens the debate, and it makes it so you can't really say anything because people will say these people are wealthy, they don't have your class interests.
Oh, you're saying the class identity politics.
The class identity politics, yeah.
Look,
but here's the thing, though. But here's my problem with that. There are lots of working class people who are to the right of where you and I are.
Of course.
And it's just not it's not something that you can just say, just like with race, you can't do that either. It's not a one-to-one thing. You can't just say, okay, this person is working class, so they speak for all working class people. Because you will have working class people who really disagree with these people. Like you will have Black working class people disagreeing with Black working class people. So the idea that there's this monolithic voice, I think is really problematic, and also is something that no one wants to address because no one wants to be like, well, I'm not that rich, I am rich, or I'm not rich. And it's like, well, if you don't consider that rich, then that shows how out of touch you are. And also there were people at the wedding who were not rich, who were being called rich. I'm taking myself out of the conversation because that's a losing proposition.
I honestly, I don't have a dog in that fight. If people I feel the same way. If people don't want to trust me or you or anybody because of an admitted, fully disclosed relationship with someone like Marianne Williamson, I think that's perfectly legitimate. Look at it. Look at everything that comes out of my mouth about her.
Yeah.
With skepticism. I think that's perfectly legitimate. And it is also true that my class interests don't align with many of the people whose political interests I happen to share, because I think of myself as a class trader. I think of myself with shallow, non-generational wealth and someone who is invested in the interests of everyone else in my family who hasn't had the same level of opportunity that I have had. However, that class analysis is fair and real, and you should be looking at the things that come out of my mouth with skepticism as well. On that front, I have no problem with that. The problem that I have is if you don't actually make a case. So if you said this take is a take that is informed by having these divergent class interests, then make the case for that. But don't be like, this person believes all that I believe in, and then
right.
Also,
right. I guess that's what it is. I think it's like a late. There's not right. There's not an. I don't see the proof of what the class thing has to do with it. And I also just think it's the reason I think it's problematic is because like the idea that because basically you're then telling all these other people who are working class and disagree with you that they're dumb, that they don't see what's in their own self-interest.
We all have feelings about whether or not somebody's politics are right or wrong for lots of different, like just on their face. Like we disagree with people. So on some level, whenever we critique somebody else's take, we could be saying, oh, we think you're dumb. Oh, just, some working class person who hasn't, who likes Tucker and thinks that populism is better than Bernie's populism by saying they're dumb when I try to persuade them otherwise. No, I think that's not necessarily fair. I think that I have blinders just like everybody else. Everybody has a lens and everybody has blind spots. And I think that's completely legitimate to point out and make people, have some heightened awareness of. I have absolutely no problem.
I think it needs to be said, though, that if this is the kind of politics that you try and create for the left, and I say this as a broke boy, right? We are the broke boy podcast guard, okay? Like Gavin and I, we have no fucking money. Like, LOL, like that's a fucking joke. Whatever, right? Like, who fucking cares? It's so obvious. Anyway, like, go ahead and look at our YouTube account and be like, oh, this is making them a fortune. Like, come on, guys. Let's be real for a second. Okay. So anyway, I say this as somebody who, it does not, I'm definitely on the other end of the spectrum, right? Financially. Sure. I'm a bartender, right? You guys can do your math. So I still think it's a horrible idea. It is bad politics. It is bad optics. For all of you fuckers in the chat bitching about optics. Let me explain optics to you. If you tell people that, oh my God, you're finally able to pay your bills, you don't have fucking insane anxiety and live paycheck to paycheck, scraping by, counting pennies, you're fucking putting away money in your savings account, you're going on vacation, you're having a good life, that somehow that means that you've betrayed your loyalty to the movement or whatever. Your movement's not going to fucking exist very long, okay? Because it's not going to win. It's not a winning proposition, okay? We're talking about, it's about expanding the size of the pie, right, for everyone, okay? It's not a either or situation. And also I feel like there's just such a level of naivety here, right? Like, look, I grew up like poor, right? Like just not a lot of money, like, not a lot, especially when I like certain parts of my life, my mom didn't even fucking have her own bedroom, right? Like, that kind of poor, right? Like I come at it from like, I'm not even talking about this as like somebody on the outside looking in, right? Your whole life, everybody around you, the actual working class people around you, all they fucking want for you is to not live like that. All they want for you is to get to the point where like, hey, now you don't have to worry about your bills. Now you actually get to go out and enjoy fun shit. Now you actually get to go out and like have a meeting. That is what leftism is. Okay, guys, uplifting our children, uplifting the people who are fucking struggling and getting them to the point where they can live nicely too. And the enemies aren't the people that got there. It's not the doctors. It's not the lawyers. It's not the journalists. It's not the people who have a couple, like, are we talking about like a couple $100,000? What if you have a couple $1 million in your like fucking IRA account? Like now you're somehow like a fucking insane class trader. Like, no, that's just somebody who worked hard and fucking lived responsibly. And yeah, they got some breaks. And do we need to make sure that everybody gets fucking breaks? Yes, that's why we're fucking socialists, okay? Right? That's why we support these things. But it's the billionaires. It's the 500 millionaires. It is the corrupt corporate class that is our enemy. And when we destroy that pie, there will be ample for everyone so that we can all live better. We can all do better. Right? That's the message of the left. If you're just talking about hating anybody that doesn't fucking starve to death, right? That's somebody that's not agonizing about how to take care of your children. That's your threshold for leftism, bro. That's a losing argument. Those people are fucking struggling and they need the rest of us to help bail them out because they don't have fucking time for that shit. Okay? Do you think a single mom working 2 jobs, barely paying for her fucking kids is going out to fucking protest on the weekends that has time to deal with this shit? No, they don't. They don't have the time. And that's not because they're dumb. That's not because they're fucking foolish, right? Those people that you're describing, right, as the only sincere leftists, right? Yeah, for sure. They have the most fucked up lived experience, but they need the rest of us to fucking come and bail them out. And that's what happens when you crawl your way out to the top. You go to fucking Harvard law degree like Briahna and you spend your fucking entire life advocating for change, right? When you show up and you are Bernie Sanders fucking press secretary because you believe that this guy is going to bring a real difference to people. And then for people that just come around and be like, oh, your class loyalty is compromised. Bro, it makes you look fucking foolish. It completely shreds any credibility that I would take from you because you have no understanding of this. You're just pissing and moaning for no reason. And it's under this phony veneer of like revolutionary fervor, which I think is hilarious. I think it's hilarious. It's a bastardization of the term in every way. Okay, it's actually regression.
When people say that about me, and I certainly wouldn't discourage anybody from listening to shows run by people of a variety of class backgrounds, including those who are closer to the working class than me. I think that is a wonderful thing that those people exist in the space. I wish we could all be more supportive of each other and what we all independently bring to the space. And this wedding and the diversity of characters that were there, I think was a really wonderful model of what could happen if we make efforts and investments in spaces for the broader left.
Can we pause it one more time? Sorry for jumping in too quickly again, but I just want to give Briahna some flowers here for that because, like, I was nervous about meeting all of these people, right? And I was not going to say anything to any of them until they came up to me. That was like my rule for myself. I was like, except for Marianne Williamson, I did go up and introduce myself to her, but I was like, I don't want to like make eye contact with somebody that fucking hates me and then ruin their time at this wedding. I was just like, I don't know, I don't want to. But then Briahna, to her credit, she saw us, she comes over to us, she was like super fucking kind to us, and she did tell me that she thought that we like really contributed to the space, and that meant a lot to me because I was like, fuck, like at least like somebody in this space like is like, hey, I get what you guys are doing, like you guys are covering independent news, that's your lane, that's your beat. And I was just like, oh, whew, wow. So anyway, I think that when she talks about this inclusivity for fucking everybody and like even like some of the like outsiders or whatever, like the vanguard, I think that she means it. She walks that walk. Like she didn't have any animosity about us for any of our fucking disagreements or anything like that. She walked the walk for sure.
Everyone, including people who weren't necessarily personal friends of Krystal and Kyle, and then who, for that reason, were not invited to an intimate family event.
Yeah. I'm a little too tired, and I started drinking a martini, so I can't really express it well. Maybe we should even just cut this thing. But I feel like there's something there that I'm not getting to the root of with the class stuff. Though, like, do not talk to me like Mendel. What's her name?
Bethany Mendel.
Yeah, you can take your time. That was a good line. But, yeah.
That wasn't meant. When I said it to her, it wasn't meant shadily either.
I know. Yeah.
And again, what Katie's getting at is that people who are weaponizing this criticism of, oh, well, you're just a bourgeois elite. The fact that you're at this wedding in a photo with other people who have a little bit of money somehow makes you a class traitor. The problem with it, again, is that it's a complete weaponization, and it's completely selectively being weaponized against progressives, when that same criticism, where it could be applicably applied to other commentators, is not made. Other commentators that the people making those criticisms listen to. That's the problem with it. It's just completely selectively enforced, which proves it's not an honest or good faith criticism.
Yeah. There's just I don't think that there's a thorough enough interrogation or case making that goes into it. It's like, this person is from this class. And also, it's also thrown around to people about people to whom it doesn't apply.
There was a discourse once on Twitter for like a week about how if you paid more than $80 for a pair of shoes ever, you were an elitist, and I had to sit that one out.
Yeah, yeah.
Bro, I'm broke as fuck, and I've spent at least $300 on a pair of shoes. So, that's because poor people are stupid with their money. But hey, I'm just putting it out there.
Cheap shoes. Like, I'm more of a bargain hunter, but I wind up spending as much as you do.
I will never admit to how much I've ever spent on a pair of shoes, but I can tell you that the $80 is not the upper limit of
right.
And the most expensive pair of shoes. Right,
yeah.
I mean, a pair of Air Force Ones cost more than $80. The sneakers that everybody is wearing cost more than $80. Okay, I won't get into it. But
yeah. I mean, were you nervous though? Were you at all nervous about photos of the event getting out?
So I didn't post initially because I looked around. No one else was posting. I wasn't sure if they had made a request. Sometimes you go to a wedding and they're like, can you not post?
I videotaped it, but I didn't post it. I was just going to send it to them. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you go to a wedding and they say, please don't post. We want to be the first ones and to control, what photos are out there and to be the ones behind the big reveal. And when I saw that folks didn't seem to be posting, I assumed that I had just missed something and declined to do so. And I also, I wasn't surprised that there was that kind of reaction. No, I mean, I wasn't. I was surprised.
I also was not surprised whatsoever because, like I said, there's a handful of channels out here whose entire business model is to smear and shit on leftists, to be dishonest about us and to attack progressives and gin up controversies that shouldn't exist otherwise in order to make money and get attention. So, yeah, of course I knew this was going to happen.
Nice to see all those people there. Right? Like, I had no idea all those people were going to be there. But then once I was there, I was like, well, this is obviously going to make a splash. I'm in a picture with shoe on head. And
I didn't know who that was, by the way.
Really? She's huge.
I know, but I don't know who she is. Is that terrible?
No, but I mean, it speaks to kind of like the diversity of the communities that were represented there.
There were definitely people there who I've fought with, who fought with my co-hosts. Who have
you fought with there?
I mean, more in DMs about planning and coordinating streams, but I
have to try to guess who, because I felt like you were on good terms with pretty much everyone there.
I do try to do that. I have to say, I try to keep on. I was on good terms with everyone there.
Poor Ryan Graham was seated next to me, and I'm going back and forth with him again about the.
Oh my God! No, you're not. Oh God, that is so funny.
I'm insufferable.
You are insufferable. So it's you and Brian Graham going about the railroad strike, and then you and Ben Burgess about force the vote.
I'm the worst. Don't invite me to your wedding.
That is really funny. No, I should have spent more time.
I definitely don't think she's referencing any show that sounds like our name. And I have nothing but love for Katie Halper, regardless of the fact that her podcast host happens to be, our favorite listener and the number one fan of the Vanguard podcast. So you know what? Shout out to old Aaron.
I'd spent more time dancing. I got into these. The irony is I got into a discussion about the primary. That's what I spent most of the night talking about. But I think actually, honestly, I overcompensate because visibly friendly with Marianne. Like, I've done lots of streams with her. We did a stream on my birthday. We have like a camaraderie that I think comes across. We've co-hosted stuff like you and I have about with her. So I feel like if anything, I make sure to emphasize, and again, I do like his foreign policy a lot, but I really emphasize the Bobby Kennedy and Marianne Williamson should be elevated by the news. Not elevated. They should be reported on.
Absolutely.
And actually, this leads into something else I wanted to talk about. I'm genuinely interested to get your opinion on this, Zach, because Katie here is mentioning that she really wants the news to elevate people like Marianne Williamson and RFK Jr., and they're not doing that. And to me, that's the role of progressive media. That's the role of a show like ours, or any of the shows like, Bad Faith or Katie Halper show. It's at least in part to elevate progressive voices, progressive candidates, activists, etc. So I'm just kind of confused by this whole controversy about access journalism and, running into Marianne Williamson IRL, because in my opinion, we should, stop short of doing literal propaganda for someone like Marianne Williamson or Bernie Sanders or whoever else is a progressive candidate or is running for office on a progressive platform. It is literally our job, in my opinion, to elevate those people, to boost them. Again, I don't want to be a propagandist, and I'm still going to ask Marianne Williamson tough questions when she comes on my show. I'm still going to criticize her where I see fit. But I also think it's part of progressive media's role to boost progressive candidates. That's one of the best things, and one of the reasons why Bernie Sanders was able to have the level of success that he was able to have, because all of these independent online shows, progressive shows, were boosting the hell out of him. Again, I mean, I don't want to say we should be propagandists. Obviously, I don't think that. But to some level, yeah, I think that just like how corporate media boosts corporate candidates, in some ways it's our role as progressive media to boost progressive candidates. Is that crazy?
No, and I don't think that's what Katie's saying. I think that she's just saying, in addition to the fact that we're all, supposed to amplify these, like, our shows are small, like, we're not like, and that it should be incumbent on mainstream media to be forced to air the, town halls of, an RFK Jr., of a Marianne Williamson, that they should be forced to contend with these individuals just like we are. That, of course, it's incumbent upon us to, do the best that we can to amplify these voices. But unfortunately, I just don't think, given the state of, lefty media right now, that they are going to be capable of boosting a candidate all the way out of it without any kind of exposure from mainstream media. I think the idea is that left-wing media puts pressure on mainstream media to cover these candidates, and I thought that was more the point that Katie was making.
Oh, it was the point that Katie was making. I was just asking what you think about progressive media's role as it relates to progressive candidates like Marianne Williamson, because obviously we should hold all people to account if you're seeking office. Like, we should ask tough questions. We should make sure you're serious. We should apply some degree of skepticism. But I just genuinely think it's a valuable role of progressive media to boost progressive candidates, to help them get more attention, to raise awareness about them, just like what progressive media did with Bernie Sanders in 2016 and 2020. It seemed like pretty much all of the progressive commentators were like unanimously on the same page about the fact that, yeah, we're on Team Bernie, and our job, at least in part, is to boost Bernie Sanders and to make the argument on behalf of Bernie Sanders and to educate people as to why he's the best option. And now it seems like a lot of people don't seem to have that same philosophy as it relates to some current candidates.
Oh, that is 100% true. That is 100% true. Yeah, no, the fact that people act as if it's like somehow like, what do you guys think that we weren't the like most obviously like most fervent, like by definition textbook demographic Bernie bros that you would ever have fucking met in your life, that we wanted to have a conversation for fucking 4 years about anything but Bernie Sanders? No, we didn't. We all, that was, and nobody seemed to think that violated your fucking journalistic credibility, because it was just like, yeah, I can criticize Bernie Sanders. I can call him out where we disagree. I can talk about how I'm to the left of Bernie on this issue, or that I think Bernie is saying this because he's trying to reach a large demographic of people who might not agree with him. And for example, let's talk about Kyle Kulinski, the man of the hour here, unfortunately. For the fact that it was just a guy getting at a wedding, his own. Anyway, he used to talk about Bernie all the time, right? And he would celebrate Bernie. And obviously Kyle was like the internet's Bernie bro, right? Like Zac Gavin wrote that big piece about him, when Kyle talks, Bernie bros listen. It was a great piece. But he would do this thing all the time where he would talk about like criticizing Bernie for coming out and like saying something that he knew would be interpreted as like being unpopular, right? Even if it was something that Kyle agreed with. And the example that comes to my mind first was when Bernie was like on an interview show and they asked him, does everybody in the United States have a right to vote? And he says yes. And then they're like, oh, so do you think the Boston bomber like has a right to vote? And Bernie was like, yeah, if he's subject to our laws, like even if he's in prison, I think everybody has the right to vote. And to me, I was like, based as fuck. That's a great answer, Bernie. Yada, yada, yada. Kyle was like, oh, Bernie, like they're going to play that 10 million ways. Like, you know, Bernie wants the Boston bomber to vote. Like you should have spun that. You should have fucking walked out of it. Like now this is going to become something that follows you around in a state like Pennsylvania or Florida or wherever. You know, and so it's like things like that. It's like, obviously you can disagree with Bernie, or I could talk about how I thought that Bernie was like fucking absolutely like fucking foolish for folding, not just in 2020 with no concessions from Joe Biden, but again, in 2024 election cycle, this is only 2023 and he's already folded to Joe Biden with no concessions. Like, is it hard for me to say that? No, it's not hard for me to say that. And I feel like it's weird when it comes to Marianne because people are always like, oh, well, you have access to Marianne. It's like, dog, you guys just spent the last 4 fucking years bitching about how Bernie Sanders never gave access to independent media. And now a candidate like Marianne Williamson gives herself access to some lowly fucks like us, right? Because she's like, I care about it all down the line. Like I care, like, you know, she's not about this for, oh, you guys don't have 1 million subs. Like I remember one time back in the day, we tried to interview Andrew Yang and his press person was just like, you guys' channel is way too small. He would never come on your show. And I was like, oh, that's not the kind of person Marianne Williamson is, right? That's not the kind of candidate she is. And that's something that should be celebrated, right? The fact that, you know, oh, actual working class interviewers get to talk to somebody who's going to be a fucking political candidate. How dense do you have to be to spin that as a bad thing? How dense do you have to be? It's obtuse.
Their deserved and appropriate proportionality, and they of course should be allowed to. But it's funny because when I was debating with that, like it wasn't about Marianne. I just really strongly believe in the principle that we should be having a primary. And if anything, I feel like having Marianne. I'm glad that it's not just Marianne because people already see me as like, oh, this is just because I'm shilling for Marianne, which it's not actually about that. And I think, honestly, it's better if you have a stage of 3 people. I tweet this out. It's like both Bobby Kennedy and Marianne Williamson. And to be fair to Marianne, she's been talking about this for a lot longer than RFK. Have both said that they'd free Julian Assange. And I pointed that out. And I said, imagine like being on a debate stage where there's 3 people, right? If it's Biden, Assange, Biden, RFK, and Marianne Williamson, and the one man out, like the guy in the minority position is Joe Biden, who won't call for the freedom of Assange. That's great. That's a stronger indictment of his prosecution of Assange than just having one person saying
it. And to people making this argument that, well, there's not going to be a debate. Well, no shit, Sherlock. Like, but the point is that we should be advocating for one. We should be using this as an opportunity to cast the Democratic Party as anti-democratic, to continue to try to peel voters away from the Democratic Party by revealing how toxic and corrupt it is. And guess what? You can't argue that there should be a debate if nobody is running against Joe Biden. So if only for the fact that they are offering these placeholders that provide a fulcrum for us from which we can launch our attack on the Democratic Party, that's a service that they're providing. And again, that is not me saying, you know, donate to their campaign, knock on their doors, do what you want to do with your life. I'm not your mom. I'm not here to tell you anything. All I'm offering is that there's a strategic value.
Not to add another correction to the multitude of fucking corrections that were added to the Revolutionary Blackout stream dedicated entirely to this wedding, but they also said that we all fucking just said that you had to donate to Marianne Williamson when I very consciously, right? I've never said that. I have never said that because we told you guys a long time ago that I'm not ready to tell anybody to vote or to send their money to any politician. So we'll interview them. We'll have them on. We'll ask them all kinds of stuff. And you guys are smart enough to figure out, hey, there's this person, you know, they can ask you to donate to them. They're allowed to say whatever the fuck they want. I don't do the, you know, oh yeah, just send me whatever questions you want to be asked, bro, kind of journalism. Okay. Like some people, you know, who we might have had spats with, anyway, that was insane. So None of us have ever fucking said that. Briahna's never called for anybody to donate to Marianne Williamson. I'm not sure if Katie's ever done it, but it doesn't sound like it. It doesn't sound like it. It sounds like they're both being very cautious with the fact that, yeah, I think this woman's the best candidate. And yeah, we've had some talks before. I've shook her hand, right? That's not a crime, okay? It's just not. And nobody, do you remember where you were during WeddingGate? LOL. I was at WeddingGate, bro. I was in the tequila soda in hand, bro. It was fucked up, actually. I got drunk at that wedding, dude. I got fucking drunk at that wedding.
Oh, me too, bro. But yeah, that's a great point. No one that was at that wedding is like out here telling their audiences to donate to Marianne Williamson. Yeah, not at all. Not at all. To act like these people are all Marianne Williamson propagandists. Hell, I wish they were more so Marianne Williamson propagandists. I honestly wish that independent progressive media, everyone that used to support Bernie would get solidly on team Marianne. In my opinion, she needs our help. And again, I'm not going to tell you to go donate to her, but if someone else wants to, I'm not going to have a problem with that. That being said, no one else has done that. No one is doing that. I'm a proud Marianne fanboy. I wear it on my sleeve. I want her to become president. I'm looking forward to voting for her. When I met her at the wedding, I told her in person, thank you for what you are doing. I think you are doing a great service. And if you disagree with me on that and find it cringy, that's whatever. It's your decision. You can go listen to whatever other podcast you want to. But again, I wear that on my sleeve. I don't pretend to be objective. I think that Marianne Williamson's politics align with my own in a very compelling way, probably like at least 85 to 90%, which is far more than I'm ever used to having any sort of alignment with presidential candidates. So yeah, I'm happy to support that person. I want this person to be successful. And it's not about Marianne as a person. Yeah, she's a lovely person. She could also be mean and rude. It doesn't really matter to me. It's about the ideas. It's about Medicare for all. It's about free college. It's about taxing the rich. It's about what she supports. And that's the other thing about this that no one's talking about for some reason. It's like, we're not, to the extent that Marianne is being boosted by channels like the Vanguard, to the extent that we're doing propaganda for Marianne Williamson, it has nothing to do with her personality. Like I said, when that article came out about how she screams at people behind the scenes and how horrible and mean she is, obviously I thought that was a smear. But even if it wasn't a smear, even if Marianne Williamson was a total biatch behind the scenes, and even if she treated me like trash, I would still support her because I don't fucking care about how nice she is to me or anyone else. I care about the ideas that she's bringing to the table, and I care about her platform, the policy positions that she supports and that she is promising to enact if elected president. I'm part of a progressive movement, and I want to see progressive policies enacted. That's why I support her. Like I said, I don't give a fuck about how nice she is behind the scenes to me or anyone else. The fact that I was able to run into her and tell her, thank you for what you're doing, is an added bonus, but it's not going to change my analysis. It never has. It never will.
And them existing. And we all know that. We're all jumping off of the springboard they're providing by making all of these attacks on the Democratic Party. It's just so weird to do that off of their backs and then turn around and say, acknowledging that you're standing on somebody's back, acknowledging that they're even there, is a weird kind of sop to the democratic electoral process or something.
Right. And what I've found really weird are people who are like, I don't like this candidate, so they shouldn't be allowed to debate. It's like, are you really saying that out loud? But I feel like people actually say that. It's like, well, you're just saying that because you like Marianne Williamson. I'm not talking about liberals. I'm talking about leftists. It's like, okay, I get it. You only believe in electoral politics to a certain extent. But like you were saying, isn't this also a chance to expose how corrupt and dynastic, although not dynastic in Kennedy's sense, but dynastic in the, more recent, I guess, political dynasty sense. I find it weird that I've seen critics of both Williamson and RFK kind of openly say that because they don't like that person, they shouldn't be allowed to debate. I just think that's a very embarrassing argument to be making. Like, I can't believe people are making it. They never say it that explicitly, but it's very clear that that's what they mean. Because if you say that there should be debate, they should be allowed to be in debate, they'll point to something that they don't like about them. It's like, and what? And what? I don't understand. They're running for president. Like, their ability to debate should not rest on your approval of them. And
that's the exact same thing that the Biden people are doing. I don't know. Did you see that clip of my predecessor, Simone Sanders, making the case for how Democrats needed to wake up, get real, and how there was going to be no debate? There will be no debate.
I really think that the mealy-mouthed Democrats, as I like to call them, and some of my progressive friends who would like to live in a fantasy land, they need to come back to reality. Yeah. And the reality is this. The sitting president of the United States of America is a Democrat that would like to run for re-election, so much so that he has declared a re-election campaign. Right. In that case, the Democratic National Committee will not facilitate a primary process. There will be no debate stage for Bobby Kennedy, Marianne Williamson, or anyone else.
So we're going to have another Bobby Kennedy in an empty chair in the debate, right?
There will be no debating.
Yeah, no debate.
The Democratic National Committee administers the debates, and they're not going to set up a primary process for debates for someone to challenge the head of the Democratic Party.
Well, did she also say the CDC had said it was safe for folks to vote? So I don't know what Senator Sanders is talking about. I'll never forget that, by the way. You
have a like an elephant. God bless you, Katie.
You were the one who posted that. You posted that clip of her. I'll never forget. You posted the clip of her saying
March 15th,
that the
2020
CDC had said it was safe for folks to vote. Mm-hmm. And I was so, like you are, I was really wanting to do my homework because I didn't know at the exact time at which the CDC had announced that they were recommending not having gatherings of more than 50 people.
It was earlier that day.
But I didn't, right? So I don't know that. And you had just posted a clip where she says that. And then I came across the clip, the entire clip. And Chris Cuomo, it was like the smoking gun, because Chris Cuomo says, the CDC has said it's not safe to gather in groups bigger than 50 people. That means basically no polling places except very small rural areas. And then she responded to that. So she 100% lied. And this isn't about her as an individual. This is about her as a successful player in Democratic politics.
By the way, when I tweeted about that,
she seems like a lovely person, honestly, as much as you can be lovely while doing the bidding of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. But she also just engaged in a bald-faced lie, said that the CDC had said it was safe to vote when they had said the opposite.
Hey, YouTube. Thanks for watching.
Bam. There it is. You've got it. Yeah, I don't know. I thought they had good commentary. I thought they were pretty charitable, way more charitable than we would be. I was just like, fuck these assholes. I can't believe you guys. And I thought they did a good job of fundamentally addressing how, hey, you can't constantly piss and moan about how nobody has any access to these people. And then the second that the left gets some access to these people, oh my God, I can't believe you're fraternizing with these politicians. It's just like, you can't have your cake and eat it too, essentially. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, absolutely. And again, if fucking Pete Buttigieg or Amy Klobuchar had been at that wedding and it was just schmoozing it up with us progressive media commentators and stuff, then I would understand there being some level of controversy or outrage. I would fully understand there being controversy over that. It's like, wait, you guys proclaim to be progressives online and you're giving this progressive message and claim to hate corporate Democrats, but here you are at this wedding schmoozing it up and hobnobbing with fucking corporate Democrat sellouts. What is this? This is not a good look. However, there was no cognitive dissonance between what we say online, our message that we espouse, and the people that were also at that wedding. Again, Marianne Williamson is a progressive by every single imaginable metric. She is far more to the left and far more progressive than Joe Biden. Again, on every single issue, pick an issue, she's more progressive. All the commentators that we were hanging out with there are also progressive. It's not like we're chatting with the Pod Save America bros or something. It's like, no, these are our IRL colleagues, people that share a similar perspective to us and exist in the same space as us online. It's really nothing controversial whatsoever, in my opinion. And also, to the extent that anyone needs to disclose any sort of a conflict of interest thing, it's Krystal and Kyle. They're the ones that invited Marianne Williamson to their wedding. And I do think it's fair to say that, okay, you guys are clearly good friends with this woman. She officiated your wedding ceremony. Perhaps you should disclose the fact that she's a friend before you talk about her on your programs. Guess what? They do. They already do that. Krystal always mentions whenever they're talking about Marianne Williamson's candidacy that, just so you guys know, just so I can disclose this is someone that is our friend, someone I consider a dear friend. I considered a dear friend before she even ran for president. So they already do that. And to the extent that any criticism whatsoever should exist, it should be about Krystal and Kyle, because again, they're the ones that invited Marianne to their wedding.
Just throw them under the bus.
No, but I'm saying they already do that. They already do meet that standard. Krystal and Kyle both disclosed the fact that they're friends with Marianne Williamson, and of course that's going to bias their coverage. Everyone else at that wedding, I don't think you can make that critique of, because it wasn't their wedding. We didn't invite Marianne Williamson. I didn't even know if she was going to be there or not. And I don't consider her my friend. I look up to her and admire her and plan on voting for her, but she's not my personal fucking friend. Just because you meet someone one time does not make them your friend. I mean, hell, I don't even really consider Krystal and Kyle my friends. I consider them my, colleagues, and I was honored by the fact that they thought to invite us to the wedding, but I don't really consider myself genuine friends with any of these people. Again, bumping into someone does not make them your friend.
Yeah, like these are a lot of people that, again, like you said, Gavin, deeply admire, consider colleagues. It was very humbling to be invited to watch them have that special moment together. For sure. But like, I mean, are Kyle and I buds? Like, I mean, if you ask me, I'll be like, yeah, Kyle's my boy. Like, I fucking love Kyle. Like, yeah, hell yeah, kick it with Kyle anytime. But it's like, dude, like, no, I mean, like, we don't know each other like that. That was the first time we'd ever met in the Das Boot Fleisch, as I'm kidding. But yeah, like that's I'd never actually met the guy. It was really nice to meet the dude. Right. But I mean, yeah. And it's like, how much time do you actually spend with a groom or a bride at their wedding? Like, you give them a hug, you say congratulations. It's a beautiful ceremony. We're so happy for you. But I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, it was a beautiful ceremony. One thing I will say that I think gets shied out about this, and since everybody knows we were there, I'm just gonna tell it, bro. Kyle loves the fuck. Like they fucking love each other, dude. You watch that shit and you're just like, wow, this is powerful. This is the real shit. Like they love each other, man. Just watching them interact, even from afar, you're just like, oh man, like this is some good shit. And you can't be mad about that. Who can be mad about looking at some two people, right, on this hurling rock in the universe, and they found each other and they make each other happy and they love each other, man. Like Kyle, like, this dude was getting like mad emotional during the ceremony and it was like really beautiful to see. So anyway, I don't know. The fact that this all blew up, this is why everybody hates the left. Because essentially what it is like you're in the media scene, so you can't talk to any politician. You're not also allowed to talk to any of your colleagues. And also, if you're not living paycheck to paycheck and dirt poor, you can't do that either. Yeah, real winning message, guys. Why don't you run for president on that shit? Huh? Fucking idiots.
Yeah, it's honestly mind-blowing how petty the fucking circular firing squad bullshit has become. It's really intolerable. And again, the reason why it exists is because there's a few channels, we all know who I'm talking about, whose entire business model is to smear and tear down progressive leftists. They hate progressives. They hate everyone that espouses progressive ideology. They hate progressive candidates, and it boils their fucking blood to see us in real life celebrating and having a good time together. That's all it is. Any substantive criticism is just pulled out of their ass in order to give them a veneer of credibility as they level these smears against us. That's my honest opinion. But that being said, I think that this was a good conversation. I guess I'm glad that Brie and Katie actually decided to substantively respond to some of the quote unquote criticisms that were made rather than just brushing it aside. But honestly, I do think they were even a little bit too much, or they were even a little bit too charitable to some of their critics, because like I said, these aren't serious criticisms.